Hey there. It's me, Eden. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to my channel and visit my Patreon page for early access, link in the comment, thanks. 2 days later we got a call from Mr. Daniels who wanted to know if we were coming out to California over the holidays because the movie company that had interviewed me 3 times wanted to see me. As we had discussed, Mom told him that I was involved with the community theater production and wouldn't be available for any work during the next 2 months. He replied that the movie company was really interested in me but wanted to see me again, so Mom told him that they could buy a ticket to my new play in a couple of weeks and see me for 2 hours. I laughed when Mom told me what she had said, and I couldn't see how another trip would give them any more than they already had. We had already spent a lot of money traveling to California for the interviews, and they had me on tape from the previous 3. And since I had appeared in 2 movies already, it didn't seem reasonable to make another trip. The following Monday we got a call from Mr. Daniels again. He said that the movie company definitely wanted me for the movie, but they had to see me again before they would make the announcement. They'll fly you out to discuss the role, take some publicity pictures of the contract signing, and then fly you home. That seems a bit excessive for a small supporting role. Where did you get that idea? This isn't a small supporting role. They originally tested you for Victoria. That was a supporting role, but this is the starring role. The starring role? I squeaked out. Yes. This is the starring role in the picture. Now I understand the reason for the signing ceremony, which is actually just a photo op for publicity. I just didn't understand how I had moved from a small supporting role to the starring role, but Mr. Daniels said that my performance in Open Spaces pretty much clinched the deal. The following afternoon Mom and I went to the airport and boarded the private jet that had been hired to bring us to California. The small jet would fly directly to LA and shave several hours off the normal travel time where we had layovers in Chicago. A limo was waiting to take us to the condo and would pick us up again in the morning. I arrived at the studio offices around 9 the next morning. There wasn't any sense in Mom sitting around for hours, so she would come in later. Mr. Daniels would also be coming today. This was my biggest part yet and therefore his largest commission yet. After a brief conference with Mark Silver, the producer, and Trevor Bacon, the director, I learned that they actually wanted me there not to interview me, but to watch other actors work with me to see who would be best for the supporting roles. They gave me a script to study, with several scenes marked, and said that the others were studying their lines in another area. When I was ready, we would do the scenes just as I had done with Gregory Crown last month. An assistant brought me to an empty conference room so that I could study, and asked if I wanted tea or coffee. After bringing me a cup of tea, I was left alone to work. I read through the scenes quickly and then returned to memorize the dialogue as best I could. As I took my first sip of tea, I made a face at the taste. Oh, the tea that they serve in some of these places. It's so awful sometimes. I drank it down, but I would sure have preferred a cup of Mom's herbal tea. Around 10 I was called back to the studio area where we would do the scenes. We ran through each of the 3 scenes, with Mr. Bacon taking the other parts until I had my end down. When I was ready, the other actors were brought in one at a time to test with me. Mr. Bacon directed while Mr. Silver and half a dozen others watched. All of the scenes were videotaped. We finished up around 1:30 and went to a conference room where a small buffet was set up. Mom and Mr. Daniels were there already. We talked about the picture as we ate. We would start working in Maine at the beginning of March. The indoor shooting would be done first, saving most of the outdoor stuff for late April and May when the weather started to turn nicer. With the best of luck we would wrap by the end of May, but it could go an extra month if the weather didn't cooperate. At 3 o'clock we held the formal contract signing, and because I'm still a minor, Mom co-signed with me. Mr. Daniels had negotiated the contracts with the movie company and I trusted Mr. Daniels to secure the best deal possible. In addition to my pay, there were other things such as a percentage of video and television earnings. A couple of photographers took my picture as I signed the contract and a videographer filmed everything. I expected that they would make the final cast selections from today's interviews, but they said that they might need me back here once more. Otherwise, I would be sent a script and information about the start of the shooting sometime next month. After the ceremony was over, I thanked Mr. Silver and Mr. Bacon for their faith in me and the opportunity to work in their film, and then we left. Mr. Daniels asked us to sit in his car for a few minutes to talk. We discussed my career so far and what this movie meant to it. We also talked about the new play and charity engagements that I would be asked to do as my name recognition increased. Security would also be a problem with so many crazies on the loose. Our entire discussion in the car centered around things that I would face as I became more well-known. We even talked about my living in the house where I had grown up and the condo here in California. Mr. Daniels said that there were very good reasons why stars lived in secluded locations in the canyons or in high-security homes in Beverly Hills. He also suggested that it was time for me to get a publicist. After our talk, Mr. Daniels drove us to the airport. The private plane was waiting and we were on our way home shortly after boarding. We had parked at the airport so we didn't have to bother Carol, who was using my car today. It was late when we got home, but we were hungry, so we fixed a snack. Carol arrived while we were eating and nibbled on a piece of bread as we talked. We told her all about the trip and the contract signing. This is so cool. My little sister is the star of a motion picture. How much do they pay for that? I basically get $3 million. Of course the government takes half and the Daniels agency gets $300,000. So I get $1.2 million. Oh my God. You wind up with more than $1 million? You're a millionaire. Yes, but according to Mr. Daniels my expenses are going to rise substantially. Special travel, security, housing. It gets expensive when you're famous. $1.2 million can pay for a lot of increased expenses. I put the new job out of my mind as I began to work with Mr. Tucker at the theater every evening. Rick Verkowski, who had been my co-star in the original play, was cast as the male lead in this one also. He would perform the role played by Richard Crenna in the movie version, and with proper makeup he would appear to be around 50 years old. There weren't any romantic scenes for us in this production. While Mr. Tucker wanted me to portray great terror, almost to the point of overacting, he directed Rick to be very understated in his movements. He said that slow and deliberate would portend greater evil, using facial expression and head movements to convey the meanings. After our first evening of rehearsal, Rick said, "It's so great to be working with you again. I'm really excited about doing this play. It's too bad that we don't have any kissing scenes in this one. I'd love to rehearse that with you again. Maybe we can get Mr. Tucker to write one in." I smiled at his obvious joke. It just wouldn't look right to see the criminal and the victim kissing. I don't think that the audience would buy it. You're right. We'll have to scrap that idea. How about if I take you home after rehearsal? Sorry. I have a car now. I don't need a ride. Oh well. If you ever need a ride, just let me know. Thanks, Rick. At the end of their Christmas vacations, Carol, Brad, Debbie, and all my college student friends left for school again. I had spread my time around as best I could, but the play had taken up a lot of my spare time and I felt a little guilty about having to put my sister and my friends off. Mr. Tucker asked the cast to sign waivers because the play was going to be videotaped and broadcast in April or May. Because I would not be available for extra weekends due to my movie commitment, Mr. Tucker raised the normal ticket price for the 4 weekends that the play would run by 50%, and the tickets went on sale January 20th. The sales were brisk and the play was sold out before it opened. I guess that everyone wanted to see the hometown movie actress. Mr. Tucker told me that Mr. Daniels had requested a letter thanking me for donating 2 months of my time for the play. Apparently, the value of my time could be used as a charitable donation deduction against income taxes, since while I was working at the theater I wouldn't be earning money doing commercials or doing guest appearances. Costuming for the production was easy because we used normal, everyday clothes, except that the criminals were made to look more sinister by wearing a lot of black. Still, we had dress rehearsals the last few days before the play opened. We had earlier done cast pictures while in costume so that the pictures could be sold in the lobby during the performance schedule. With just a small cast of experienced actors, Mr. Tucker's job was fairly easy and we spent a lot of time polishing our performances. Mr. Tucker spent many long hours helping me to prepare for my portrayal of Susie Hendricks. Our only inexperienced actor was the young girl who would play the child from upstairs, but we weren't worried because she had proven to be precocious from day one. We didn't believe for a minute that she would freeze up in front of the audience, and her time on stage was limited anyway. Regardless of how many times you go on, there is always a certain amount of opening night jitters. But weeks of repeated practice on stage cause you to go into automatic mode as soon as you begin. I usually forget the jitters within minutes of starting, as I concentrate on my lines, timing, cues, and hitting my marks. I was spared the effort of doing the welcome this time. My role was demanding enough. Mr. Tucker did the honors and he was wonderful as he warmed up the audience before the first performance. We were backstage and ready as he completed his comments and signaled the stage manager to raise the curtain. The audience must have enjoyed the play because they gave us 7 curtain calls, and after the last call I was given a large bouquet of long-stemmed roses and a standing ovation. The applause from a live audience following a performance is like a narcotic to an actor. I hadn't heard it in almost a year and it's something that you miss when working on a movie set. After the play was over, a lot of friends came backstage to congratulate me. Mr. and Mrs. Reese got there first, followed closely by Mrs. Abbott, the drama teacher from high school, but they had to wait, as I was surrounded by the other cast members and crew. Such praise from all quarters could easily give someone a swelled head, and I delighted in the acclamation just as anyone else would. In the midst of the congratulations I was handed the business card of the critic on our local paper. He asked if I could spare him a few minutes, so after everyone had left I sat down with him in the dressing room and gave an interview. The few minutes turned into a half hour, but he had been kind to us in the past and I wanted to give him reason to be nice to us again. He had also been the one that had invited Mr. Daniels down to see me in my first play, so I owed him. Please subscribe for the next part and visit my Patreon page for early access. Link in the comment. Thanks.